Well, new questions today about the White House and its handling of private information involving a wealthy political adversary. A report saying that the administration brought up Koch Industries during a reporter briefing on corporate taxes. They singled out this company. And now that company's lawyer wants to know if and how the White House got a hold of a private company's tax information, which is supposed to be confidential, between that company and the IRS. And they're wondering why they've been targeted and singled out to begin with. Fox News legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr. is here. So let me take the latter question first. This company is saying, why on earth are we being singled out? We are the only company by name they keep mentioning. At least three senior administration officials, including President Obama, have continued to mention Koch Industries, which has spent some money to oppose President Obama's policies.
Well, the Koch Industries and the Koch family has been involved with an organization called Americans for Prosperity, which is a libertarian, small government, anti-healthcare, Tea Party supporting organization that puts its money where its mouth is. And so they feel at this point that they shouldn't be subjected to the fearsome, ferocious power of the government talking about the kind of taxes that they pay as billionaires in this country in response to their political activism and their funding of think tanks and of studies and the like. And so they're saying, is this a return to the Nixon enemies list that we saw in the 70s?
In other words, we pay money to buy ads opposing President Obama's policies, and the next thing you know, we're getting mentioned repeatedly as like the big bad corporate giant that's spending money, too much money in the wake of a Supreme Court ruling that we need to crack down on.
And in a report today, the White House indicates, well, we're really getting this from their own website and from the president's economic advisory board meeting.
Right, the White House says we didn't say anything about them that's not publicly available anyway.
Well, even if it was publicly available, and I don't know that it is, this is a privately held company that we're talking about. And private tax returns are not public. This is not something that's traded on the New York Stock Exchange or the American Stock Exchange. Those tax returns are private. You need an authorization by Koch Industries to get their tax returns.
Well, the White House says that no officials have access or are allowed to access private tax information. But I can tell you that we reached out to Koch directly, and they said we're not at ease in the wake of the White House's statement, just because they didn't necessarily look at the tax returns. What did they look at, if anything, and why are we being singled out? Why are we being targeted? We're allowed to spend money opposing the president.
Let me assume this. Let me assume that even they are public. If they are public, is it appropriate for a White House that controls the IRS, to comment on someone who is funding public policy studies, someone who's funding public policy studies in a way the White House doesn't like? Does that intimidate those folks? Does that intimidate other Americans who want to speak up and act in accordance with their beliefs? Do they say, are my taxes and how much I pay or I don't pay, whether it's a pass-through, whether it's a small business, an LLC, a limited partnership, am I going to be held to account for my political beliefs because I fund certain foundations? And it goes to the heart of what a lot of Americans are saying. On the left, you're perceived to be a nonpartisan watchdog. If you're rightward-leaning or libertarian-leaning, very often you're perceived in a way that somehow you're a political enemy of the state. We don't know whether anyone accessed confidential IRS records. We're relying on what the White House is saying through Politico today, that they didn't, that they relied upon public information from the Koch Industries' own website. But it creates an issue in this country about the power and the potential abuse of power. Even if it was public, what does it matter what they paid in taxes if they're complying with the law? But is it an issue because they disagree with the White House? Single standard in this country, not a double standard.